The northern red snapper, also known as Lectinus camperchanus. The northern red snapper overview. This will include discovery and distribution, the phylogenetic tree, unique traits, foraging strategies, habitats, life history, reproduction, interesting facts, and current research.
L. camperchanus was first discovered in 1960 by the ichthyologist Felipe Poe in Cuba. He first mistakes the northern red snapper as the southern red snapper. The northern red snapper is found in the western Atlantic Ocean, ranging from Massachusetts down to Brazil. They are most commonly found in the Gulf of Mexico.
Phylogenetic tree. The red snapper is within the Lectinani family and is most closely related to the species found in the center of the phylogenetic tree. Phylogenetic tree of the northern red snapper. The order Perciformis, family Letginadia, genus Letjanus, and species Campercanus. Unique traits to the red snapper. Northern red snappers are often mistaken as different fish, such as the southern red snapper. There are only a few unique ways that allow you to tell the difference between the northern red snapper and others. Let's mention some of those traits unique to the northern red snapper. Snappers get their name from their unusually large canine teeth, but the northern red snapper has shorter, needle-like teeth, which are still very beneficial to their diet. This typically limits their diet to smaller crustaceans and fish that will be discussed later. The juvenile red snappers also have a dark spot on their lateral side that disappears as they get older, found in the image above. A great way to tell a difference between the southern red snapper and the northern red snapper is the number of anal fin rays the fish has. The northern red snapper has 9 anal fin rays, while the southern red snapper usually has 8. Some more unique traits about the northern red snapper is that the northern red snapper can also be distinguished based on scales along the midside. They usually have 47 to 49 scales in a row instead of the normal 50 to 51. They also have a long, spiny dorsal fin that can stretch to the length of almost their tail. Their color fades from top to bottom. You can see that the top of the snapper is much darker and begins to fade as you move closer to the ventral side. Functional data. What is functional data? This refers to the size range and morphological characteristics of a species. For the northern red snapper, they have an average length up to 24 inches long with a maximum length of 39 inches. The red snapper can also weigh up to 20 pounds. The red snapper has a classic almond body shape with long pectoral fins and a truncate caudal fin. The first and second dorsal fins are continuous with a slight notch. This is accompanied by a large head with small red eyes and a semi-pointed snout. The coloration of a northern red snapper is a dark red-pink that fades down to a pale underbelly. Ecological data and foraging strategies. This slide is regarding the ecological data relevant to northern red snappers. Northern red snapper, both young and adult, adopt a carnivorous lifestyle, with adults showing a preference for hunting near the sea floor. Initially, young red snappers primarily consume zooplankton. However, as they grow, they shift to feasting on larger sea creatures like shrimp, octopus, and squid. Adult specimens typically hunt for a mix of smaller fish, crustaceans, and mollusks, often near the flat seabed areas close to the reefs. Adult northern snappers reside offshore, favoring the continental shelf's deep reefs, banks, and rocky terrains. In contrast, the juveniles thrive above sandy and muddy substrates, rich in shellfish, which serve as an abundant food source for these young fish. With maturity, they transition to habitats offering more shelter, such as ledges, around rocky formations, and near sunken structures. To escape the colder, shallow coastal waters of winter, northern red snappers migrate to deeper offshore locations. Life history of the northern red snapper. The northern red snapper has a relatively long lifespan, between 40 to 50 years. They go through 6 different stages throughout this lifestyle. Hatchlings become juveniles at 1 to 2 months. Juveniles become sexually mature between 2 to 5 years of age at an average length of 16 inches. Reproduction. Northern red snappers reach sexual maturity between 2 to 5 years of age, as previously mentioned. They prefer to spawn where there's a lot of activity in the water. Larger northern red snappers release more eggs, and they can produce 9 million eggs in a single spawning event. Eggs are released during the spawning period and hatch 2 to 3 days after being released. A yolk sac larvae is hatched and will begin to move to a benthic community for protection, which is the most important stage of their life cycle. Once the 1 to 2 month mark comes, the larvae will become a settlement juvenile. About 1 to 5 years after being hatched, the red snapper becomes a coastal juvenile that could have reached sexual maturity. Once the red snapper has become over 5 years old, it is fully mature. To finish off reproduction for the northern red snapper, males and females release their eggs and sperm into the water column at the same time. Eggs will float on the surface of the water, and within 3 days, the eggs hatch into larvae.
Predation. There are many predators of the northern red snapper, and an even wider variety of predators for juveniles. Some predators include sharks, large piscivorous fish, humans, and parasites. Many parasites, like shown on the screen, can include leeches that have been found attached to the gills of the northern red snapper, or helminths. These are parasitic worms who have been found in many northern red snappers, specifically the state of Veracruz in the southern Gulf of Mexico. Conservation. While the northern red snapper is not near extinction, the shrimp industry is impacting many juvenile northern red snappers. Too many fish are being killed by directed fisheries and shrimp trawlers in the overcatching of shrimp nets. Fishery managers are required by law to prevent overfishing and rebuild depleted fish populations. What is being done? Amendment 44 to the Fishery Management Plan for the reef fish resources of the Gulf of Mexico was established in December 2017. The amendment redefined the definitions of the minimum stock size threshold for the northern red snapper. This reclassified the status of the Gulf red snapper stock from overfished to rebuilding. The most recent assessment that was completed in May of 2018 determined that the stock is no longer overfished and there is no overfishing occurring. However, the stock remains under a rebuilding plan. Importance to humans. The northern red snapper is a popular game fish and a highly prized table fare. Around 8 million pounds of snapper are caught in America waters each year. This is around 50% of the catch in the U.S. Most commercial fishing is done with electric and hydraulic reels, with anywhere from 2 to 40 reels on each line. Ladyfish and squid are the two most effective baits for catching the northern red snapper. Northern red snapper can also be caught with hand lines, bottom long lines, and bottom trawls. Fishermen usually use these methods at areas that include shipwrecks, offshore oil rigs, and coral reefs. This is because these were the niches for northern red snappers. Is it possible there's an area nearby with these kind of habitats? Just about 50 miles southeast of Houston, Texas, lays Galveston. Galveston is an island that is known for many offshore oil rigs, shipwrecks like the infamous SS Selma from World War I that sits in the port of Galveston, and coral reefs like the one shown on the far right. These reefs are present at the Flower Garden Banks National Marine Sanctuary. This picture specifically was taken on Friday, September 15th in 2023. Galveston provides easy access to the Gulf and has plenty of nearby structures like the one listed above. Galveston is a top pick for both state and federal water for red snapper fishing. There are reefs and oil rigs just off the coast of Galveston that sit deep in the water, creating a perfect snapper habitat. Galveston has one of the largest charter fishing fleets, which gives you plenty of boats and captains to choose from. just starting at $560 per person. Texas also has a generous state water red snapper season that is rarely closed. This allows fishermen to fish almost year round. The furthest right picture on the bottom is a record breaking red snapper just caught off the coast of Texas. Joey Beaver of Victoria caught this record breaking 39-pound and 40-inch long red snapper in the Gulf of Mexico on June 1st of 2014. The financial impacts. The northern red snapper has quite a financial impact on the U.S. government. This is shown by fishing trips in Galveston, Texas, starting off around $600. However, snappers have an even larger impact on seafood. Northern red snappers are not cheap. Many diners and commercial seafood restaurants pay big bucks for these kind of snappers. As said before, the northern red snapper is the most commonly caught snapper in the continental U.S. In 2022, commercial landings of red snappers totaled approximately 7.3 million pounds. This means the northern red snappers were valued at around $35 million according to the NOAA fishery. But is what actually being sold the northern red snapper? If what is being sold not the red snapper, then what are we eating in many restaurants like diners and commercial seafood places? Genetic studies have shown many fish sold as red snappers in the US are not actually L. camperchanus. In 2015, the Congressional Research Service, which is a legislative branch agency within the Library of Congress, reported that 77% of red snappers being sold in the country were not red snappers at all, but other species in the family. These species can include Pacific rockfish, as seen on the left hand side, and Maudie, as seen on the right hand side. The Pacific rockfish and Maudie are common substitutes for the northern red snapper because they are less costly to the restaurants. However, the substitution of these other species for the northern red snapper is more common in large chain restaurants that serve a common menu nationwide. Thank you for listening to the discussion of L. campicanus. In this video, we talked about the discovery and distribution, phylogenetic tree, unique traits, foraging strategies, habitats, life history, reproduction, interesting facts, including northern red snappers are greatly sought after game fish that are commonly caught in Galveston, Texas, the financial impact of northern red snappers, and if what we are actually eating red snappers, and finally, where we found all this information. Some good websites for further research is the Florida Museum of the Natural History. This is provided by the University of Florida. Search Fish Base was also another amazing website. Oceana Protecting the World's Oceans provided great context about the conservation. NOAA Fishery was great to find many statistics and facts about the northern red snapper and is updated frequently. The Smithsonian Institution is the last website that was used, and it has amazing facts of the northern red snapper. Thank you.